Yeah, favorite genetics ever had. And I can kick this one off.
Do it.
And I, full disclosure, I didn't watch the first episode. I have an idea of what I might have said during the first episode, so I'm pretty sure I'm not repeating myself. But first one I want to throw out there is Frozen Fuel by Square One Genetics.
Square One.
And this is actually one that you guys have both consumed as well.
Smoke,
I actually gifted you guys. I think that was 2021 MJ BizCon, if I remember correctly.
Very first time we got together, you pulled it out at the Rio.
Whipped it right out at the wheel.
Yeah, right in front of everybody. Put it on the table. It was great to look at. It was overwhelming. The was great. I'm sorry. I remember it, and I remember because it was just it was so good. But this is your story.
Yeah.
Why don't you let him talk about it?
Oh shucks.
A little bit of an inside joke there.
Very inside.
But as far as growing, it was super easy grower. Super easy grower as far as nutrition-wise, right? It wasn't too picky with the nutrients. That's one thing I really liked about growing it. And I've grown several of the plants. I've grown one that were, the first time I actually grew it, it was super stretchy, and it was one of those ones that almost tripled in size after flipping the light cycle. Stretched up like crazy. Was kind of almost flopping over, not entirely to where, like, I think there's OG within the genetics. I forget what the mom and dad are on it, but I think it's one of like your typical OGs where it's long, stretchy, typically flops over. If you have real heavy, dense buds, it'll flop over due to the weight. And it stretched to triple the size. I was super surprised about. The second time I did it, I made sure to train it, and I made sure to train before flipping the flower, really get a manage on that. And I think I did it a little bit too much to where, I think I topped it and then flipped a flower probably, if I remember correctly, maybe like 5 days later. And it didn't get nearly as much of a just stretch as the triple one that I got before. So it ended up being a little bit smaller than I would have liked it, but similar results. It was very, very dense throughout the whole thing from the top to the bottom. No larf on it. Those bottom buds that are usually larf are real dense, covered with trichomes, just super dense trichome structure on all the plant. Both times I grew it out, several times I grew it out. And there was a beautiful fade as well towards the end. So getting to those final weeks, the autumn colors that come out, the yellowing to the orange, and just looks absolutely beautiful from a plant structure. And then harvest dry, cure, smoke, and you guys have smoked that.
Fire stuff, great, very unique terps, man.
Very fuely is the way I would explain that one.
Fuely, and then it had like like I was saying before, like almost like the right floral with the fuel to make me be like, oh, I need, like, that's when you see these independent terpenes when they get blended together, blended together, that you're like, oh, I could see. It's like ingredients with food. You can see how they accent each other to make that flavor. And that one stood out so much because it was just different than what I was used to for smoking.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're getting that confused with the Curb Stomper, which is another one I might want to talk about because I had the floral.
Then that was the one. That was the floral that I liked a lot because normally
we'll talk about that later. That's on my list as well.
Oh, good.
But the Frozen Fuel was makes sense that you got them. I brought two different types out there that time,
and that was the two of them.
And they were side by side. Yeah, those are the two of them.
This
was the one was the more that was like more fuely.
Yeah, and had that give you a real kind of earthy,
narcotic-y, like laid back chill effect. Really hit you hard in the headstone. So right up my alley. I loved it. Loved it so much.
It was totally crowd pleaser. You could tell every time that you rolled that up. I was like, that's the Frozen Fuel. That's it. I can tell. I just know you can blend it with something else, and I can still.
You were going to that one because I brought like a half ounce.
I just kept going back.
I think it was a half ounce of the Frozen Fuel and a half ounce of the Curb Stomper, or I bought an ounce of both. I don't remember. But you always gravitate towards the Frozen Fuel.
It was tasty.
Like grabbing the Frozen Fuel.
And you said that's Square One, right?
Yeah, Square One.
Yeah.
Shout out to THC Titan.
I would love to get my hands on that. Love to get my hands on that one.
Yeah, I don't know the availability of it. I mean, he's got so many things, so many projects
on the go.
But he's the one, a little fun fact is the Brisker OG that I used on my Chill Out OG, which I mentioned my favorite cultivars in the first section. Part 1, I mentioned the Chill Out OG. And the genetics.
Yeah, to just kind of piggyback back off of it for a half second, because you mentioned the Chill Out OG on the last episode and you just mentioned it here. I hadn't grown it yet when you had mentioned I might have even been starting to grow it at that
You can
point.
steal it and put it on yours for this list.
But I'm gonna. And the reason I said that is because it describes very similar. It grew very similar in the way that you described frozen fuel, in that it was an easy grow. It didn't ask for much. It took the neglect. It took the attention. It really did whatever I wanted it to. Not to mention the flower itself was just eye-pleasingly gorgeous, and the smoke to top it off. You guys smoked it a few trips ago on
oh yeah, immediately as soon as I was touching Canadian soil, I came in, I kissed the ground, and then I hit the blunt.
And it
was tasty.
It was tasty. It's very tasty. It worked out really well. So I'm not gonna. That's not one of mine, but I wanted to piggyback off of yours.
That's an honorable mention.
That's an honorable mention.
An award-winning cultivar.
Chilovich is great.
The Growers Gauntlet.
Great award-winning cultivar.
Did win him the gauntlet.
Yes,
Swim.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So mine, surprise, surprise, and I probably have said this in 50 videos, so it's redundant. It's the Sherb cream pie. This one, man, the flavor is just unmatchable. The only thing that's comparable that I've had is the permanent marker in terms of that florally, little bit of fuel, cakey, creamy, kind of just sweet in a sense, but funky. Very, very unique funk. That one is a Sherb BX1 crossed with ice cream cake. I mistakenly said before it was a Sherb breath cut. I was wrong on that. And that's Bean Fiend grown. It's Bones from their crew. End up kind of pretty much isolating that flavor, and it's become extremely popular in Michigan. So many people have it, but they don't all have the same cut. The Bones cut in particular is low THC. It's anywhere from 14 to 20% THC in the highest, but the terpenes are the highest I've ever seen, 3.6 on flower, which is crazy. People sell rosin that's 3% terpenes. Like this was just, I mean, there's rosin that's better, obviously, but people do sell rosin that's at that point, and I was blown away, man. I remember at Franklin Fields when they discovered it, it wasn't like a massive yielder. Well, not when they discovered it, when they got it. It was Dankum Hunters who kind of introduced the crew. He's a great grower, works with the Athena team. But Matt and the crew there were not keen on it at all because it was a low THC testing cultivar. And I'm like, dude, this smokes so good. It's unbelievable. It was purple, it was pretty, covered in trichomes. And then once they got the certification of analysis in and it said the terpene percentage, that was what I was able to sell them on as the director. I'm like, guys, let's just push this number. Instead of the THC number, let's show how high the terpene number is. And just like I said, it sell out like crazy. It was just, I mean, hotcakes, gone. That's what they were known for at that point. That and this, it was carrot cake, but they ended up renaming it to orange something. But just unbelievable flavor, but it wasn't high THC. And it's crazy that the market still will go after the other cut that people will go after, and it's like 22, 23% THC. For some reason, that's the sought-after one, but the smoke is nowhere near as good as the lower THC. Just like, it's a decent stacker. I actually did a little cross with my next favorite cultivar that I'm going to put out on. I'm not going to say, but I did a little cross with that one. And I got the results that were way more Sherb cream pie leaning, but had the structure of the East Coast sour diesel. That's what I'm going to end up saying. It was not necessarily the flavor that I was going after because it was so dominating Sherb cream pie. Like that's just all it tasted like, was so Sherby. But it's just not an amazing grower in my opinion. It yields pretty well, but there's a lot of larfier shit that's on the bottom that I personally wouldn't want to keep. If you're making rosin, which is not a good dumper either, in my experience, again, of course, then I would, I'd recommend for just flower consumers. Get it, train it good. And I think there's beans you can get out there from Beans Fiends, but they got a lot of crosses of it now. That's crossed with biscotti and a few other really interesting flavors, super boof.
This FTS clip was brought to you by AC Infinity, leaders in garden innovation. Use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save some money on your order.
From the Stash Podcast.